Everybody wants the glory, but nobody wants the grind. Everybody wants to win, but they don't want the war. But listen to me, if you want to be great, if you want to be legendary, if you want to rise above the noise, the struggle, the failure, the doubt, you have to let it destroy you. Yeah, you heard me right. Let it destroy you. Let the pain rip through your excuses. Let the failure burn down every ounce of entitlement. Let the heartbreak, the rejection, the frustration break you down so bad that the only thing left standing is discipline, character, purpose. Pain is the catalyst for transformation. It is the great equalizer. The one thing every person who ever became something had to face head on. Most people run from it, try to numb it, avoid it, deny it. But the ones who rise, the ones who grow into something unshakable, they step into it. They embrace it. Because they understand pain isn't a punishment, it's preparation. It's a process. It's not there to ruin you, it's there to refine you. When you're in pain, when you're uncomfortable, when you're stretched beyond what you think you can take, that's when you're growing. That's when the shift is happening. You don't evolve sitting on the couch with everything going your way. You don't become a warrior in peacetime. You become a warrior when life knocks you to your knees, when your heart breaks, when you got nothing left but breath and willpower and you still refuse to stay down. Pain isn't the problem, it's the proving ground. It's the place where the old version of you gets stripped away and the real you begins to rise. People want change, but they don't want discomfort. They want growth, but not the grind. You can't have one without the other. Growth is not a soft, gentle process. Growth rips you open. It exposes your weakness. It shows you who you really are. When you're in pain, you can't hide. Everything false, everything fake, everything fragile is exposed. And that's exactly what you need. That's the moment when the excuses fade, the ego dies, and the truth gets loud. That's when the process starts doing its real work. Pain forces you to confront your limitations. It reveals what you're afraid of, what you avoid, what you've been putting off. It doesn't care about your feelings. It's not impressed by your potential. Speaks one language, pressure. And when it applies that pressure, either you rise or you break. Either you adapt or collapse. And even when you break, even when you collapse, that's not the end. That's part of the transformation too. Because every time you hit that wall, every time you fall apart, you're getting the opportunity to come back with more wisdom, more fire, more focus than before. Pain isn't just a test, it's a teacher. It teaches patience when you're desperate for results. It teaches discipline when motivation fades. It teaches humility when you thought you had it all figured out. It teaches resilience when quitting seems like the easiest option. Pain has no shortcuts. It demands you show up over and over again. It demands you do the work even when you don't see results. It demands commitment, not comfort. The people who achieve greatness don't look for the easy way. They look for the way that forces them to grow. They chase the uncomfortable. They chase the challenge. They chase the process that will break them down and build them up stronger. And that process always includes pain. Because pain does what comfort cannot. It makes you hungry. It makes you focused. It makes you serious. It burns away the distractions, the indecision, the lies you tell yourself. And once it's burned all that away, what's left is something real. Something that can't be moved by failure. Something that doesn't get shaken when life punches back. Most people never get to their next level because they keep trying to avoid pain. They think they can cheat growth, bypass discomfort, skip the hard part. But what they don't realize is the hard part is the only part that actually works. That's where the change happens. That's where you level up. That's where you get the edge that separates you from the rest. The ones who make it didn't have it easier, they just stopped running from the fire. They let the pain do its work. They let it cut. They let it push. They let it destroy the version of them that couldn't handle the next level. Because they knew the only way to transform was to embrace the very thing that most people fear. You will never become the best version of yourself if you keep protecting the weakest parts of you. The parts that want to sleep in. The parts that keep making excuses. The parts that get offended by challenges and paralyzed by fear. That soft, fragile version of you, the one that always needs comfort, validation, and easy wins, needs to be exposed, confronted, and broken. You cannot evolve while you're babysitting the very things that are holding you back. You cannot rise while you're still negotiating with your limitations. You say you want change. You say you want growth, but you defend your patterns every time you're challenged. You get defensive when someone calls you out. Shut down when things don't go your way. You fall apart at the first sign of struggle. That version of you cannot go where you're trying to go. You have to stop protecting it. Stop making space for it. Stop giving it power. Because every time you make excuses for your own mediocrity, you're feeding the version of you that's been keeping you average. Change doesn't start when you feel ready. It starts when you stop making excuses. And excuses are just armor for your fear. They're shields that keep your ego safe. But nothing great comes from protecting your ego. You've got to strip that away. You've got to be real enough to admit that the old version of you is in the way. Is in the way. That version of you that gives up when it gets hard. That version that only moves when it's convenient. That version that talks big but acts small. That version has to go. And it won't go quietly. It'll fight you. It'll try to convince you that you're fine just the way you are. But deep down, you know the truth. That version of you is not enough to carry the weight of your vision. The reason you haven't leveled up isn't because the opportunity hasn't come. It's because you're still holding on to habits, thoughts, and behavior that sabotage everything you say you want. You're still being loyal to your comfort zone. You're still protecting the parts of you that want to stay hidden, that want to avoid pain, that want to delay everything until the right time. And the right time, there's never going to be a day when change feels easy. There's never going to be a day when you're completely ready. You become ready by moving forward while you're still uncomfortable. By showing up when everything in you wants to shut down. You've got to be willing to look yourself in the mirror and say, "You're this version of me, this isn't it." And you got to be brutally honest. Because self-deception will kill your future. It'll keep you stuck. It'll keep you living the same year over and over, calling it progress. It'll have you chasing goals with a mindset that's not built to sustain them. You can't keep giving the wheel to fear and expect your life to move forward. You can't keep letting insecurity speak louder than discipline. You can't keep protecting the part of you that wants to stay comfortable and then act surprised when your dreams feel far away. The hard truth is that growth requires betrayal. Not betrayal of your values, not betrayal of your purpose, but betrayal of your old self. You've got to betray the laziness. You've got to betray the fear. You've got to betray the excuses and the self-pity and the "I'll do it tomorrow" mindset. That's the betrayal that sets you free. That's the betrayal that creates transformation. You can't take the next step until you burn the bridge behind you. Stop keeping a backup plan that caters to your weakness. Stop leaving the door open for the old you to come back when things get tough. Make the decision that the past version of you is no longer welcome in your future. Make the decision that growth is more important than comfort. Make the decision that progress matters more than pride. You will never rise while you're still making a home for the very mindset that's been holding you down. You have to stop protecting the part of you that's afraid to let go of who you've been. Only then will you be ready to become who you were born to be. Fire forges champions, not sunshine. Greatness is not built in calm seasons. It's born in chaos, pressure, and adversity. When the fire comes, when life hits you, when things fall apart, when everything you count on begins to crumble, that's not the end. That's the beginning of the real work. Because the fire doesn't come to destroy your purpose. It comes to reveal it. It burns away everything that doesn't belong. It exposes the weakness. It tests your belief. It stretches your patience. It pushes your mind past its limits. And in that fire, the excuses melt, the doubt fades, and what's left is pure hunger. The fire doesn't ask for permission. It doesn't care if you're ready. It doesn't care how good your intentions are. The fire doesn't care what you said you were going to do. It only listens to action. The moment you step into it, it begins to strip away the stories you've been telling yourself. It begins to expose the gaps between what you want and what you're actually willing to do. And that's where champions are made. Not in the hype, not in the spotlight, not in the motivational speeches. In the fire, when it's hard. When it's hard, when it hurts, when everything inside of you is screaming to quit. This is where most people fall off, because they thought greatness would feel good. They thought it would be glamorous. They thought it would come fast. They didn't know it would feel like war. They didn't expect to cry, to lose friends, to doubt themselves, to get rejected, to get up and grind when no one is clapping for them. But the ones who make it, they didn't expect it to be easy. They expected to bleed. They expected to struggle. They expected to be lonely and stood up and secure. Still, they kept going. Still, they welcomed the fire because they understood that was never there to stop them. It was there to shape them. The fire is not your enemy. It's the only place where you'll find the edge that separates average from elite. You don't build mental toughness on your best day. You don't become resilient when everything is going your way. You develop that edge when you got every reason to give up and you refuse. When you're misunderstood and you stay focused. When you're broke and you keep grinding. When you're exhausted and you don't take the easy way out. The fire puts weight on your back and asks, how can you still move forward? And when you do, step by step, breath by breath, you gain something you can't fake. Confidence built from survival. You can read books, watch videos, attend seminars, but if you're not stepping into the fire, none of it will matter. Knowledge doesn't build champions, pain does. Repetition does. Consistency when it's boring does. Discipline when it's draining does. That's the part nobody wants to talk about because it's not sexy, it's not exciting, but it's real. That's where the results come from. The fire doesn't give you what you want, it reveals what you truly deserve. And what you deserve is based on what you can endure. How long can you keep grinding without applause? How long can you stay focused when the results are slow? How long can you carry the weight of your dreams when everything in you is tired, frustrated, and ready to quit? Most people pray for the fire to go away, but champions pray for the strength to endure it because they know the fire is the process. They know every challenge is carving them into something stronger. They know every setback is a setup for more clarity, more hunger, more fire in their belly. They don't run from the resistance. They lean into it. They use it. They get up every single day, not hoping for it to get easier, but preparing to get stronger. Not looking for shortcuts, but learning how to outlast the discomfort. They're not made of comfort. They're made of pressure. They're not built in the light. They're built in the fire. Destruction leads to rebirth. There's a point in every journey where everything seems to fall apart. Your plans crumble, your strength gives out, your motivation dries up, and you're left with silence, struggle, and a question. Who am I now? That moment's not a dead end. That moment is a turning point. It's not the end of your story. It's the breaking of the old chapter so something new can begin. Before something powerful is born, something weak must be destroyed. Before a breakthrough can happen, a breakdown is necessary. You cannot access the next level of your life while you're still holding on to the mindset, habits, and beliefs that built the last one. Most people try to avoid this stage. They want to upgrade their life, but keep the same identity. They want to reach new heights, but avoid discomfort, avoid loss, avoid letting go. But growth doesn't work like that. The universe doesn't work like that. The process demands that something in you must die so something greater can live. That might be your pride. That might be your need to control everything. That might be the illusion of who you thought you were. Either way, there's no rising without falling. There's no becoming without breaking. When everything you were relying on starts collapsing, that's when the real foundation starts getting built. That's when you begin to see what's solid and what's fake. The applause fades. The distractions disappear. The shortcuts don't work anymore. You're left with nothing but your truth. And in that silence, in that stillness, in that dark place where most people give up, you find something different. You find raw hunger. You find clarity. You find a version of yourself that's no longer tied to what the world thinks, no longer limited by who you used to be. You find something unshakable because it was built through chaos. There's beauty in being broken because it means you're being rebuilt. When the outer world falls apart, the inner world gets real. You stop pretending. You stop posturing. You stop trying to impress. You start being. And that's where power is born. That's where the fire gets lit. You gotta understand that destruction isn't always the enemy, it's the doorway. When your plan fails, maybe that plan was never big enough. When people walk away, maybe they weren't meant to carry the weight of your calling. When your strength runs out, maybe that's when grace begins to work. But none of that is possible until the old version of you breaks. Sometimes the greatest thing that can happen to you is to be emptied out. Because when you're empty, you become available. Available for growth, available for wisdom, available for the vision that's been waiting for space in your life. You can't hear that call when everything is perfect and easy. You hear it when everything is silent and heavy and uncertain. That's when the real voice inside you speaks. Not the one shaped by fear, not the one echoing doubt, but the one that's always known who you were meant to be. There's a reason the strongest people are the ones who lost the most, endured the most, and rebuilt the most. Because once you've been broken down to the foundation and chosen to rise, there's a level of strength in you that can't be shaken. You've already seen the worst. You've already felt the pain. And instead of quitting, you lean into it. You didn't run from the destruction. You used it, you learned from it, you let it expose your weakness, but you also let it wake up your greatness. Rebirth doesn't come from pretending everything is fine. It comes from admitting what's broken and having the courage to build again anyway. It comes from refusing to stay stuck in the ruins of what used to be. You stand in the middle of the rubble and decide that this isn't the end. It's the beginning of something stronger, something wiser, something that's been refined by fire. You don't fear the break anymore because now you understand what it's building in. You understand that sometimes the version of you that was never supposed to last has to collapse. So the version of you that can lead, that can endure, that can inspire, can rise from the ashes. You must be broken to be unbreakable. It sounds like a contradiction, but it's the foundation of true strength. You don't become powerful by avoiding pain. You become powerful by walking straight into it and refusing to be owned by it. Every wound you've carried, every time you fell and thought you wouldn't get back up, every setback, every betrayal, every disappointment, they were not the things that ruined you. They were the things that revealed you. You were not destroyed. You were being rebuilt. You were being stripped of weakness, layer by layer, excuse by excuse, fear by fear, until what remained was something solid, something real. Something that can no longer be moved by failure. We live in a world that teaches us to avoid breaking down, to hide the pain, to numb it, to run from it. But the truth is, the most resilient people you will ever meet are the ones who have been shattered and decided to rebuild anyway. They have scars, not because they were defeated, but because they survived. And survival taught them something victory never could. Survival taught them what they're made of. It taught them how to stand when everything's falling. It taught them how to breathe in the fire. And that kind of strength cannot be taught in comfort. It's earned through suffering, through silence, through solids, through solids. Through that long stretch of the journey where no one claps, no one sees you grinding, and no one believes in what you're doing but you. It's in those moments that something shifts. When you hit the floor and feel like quitting, but instead you make the choice to keep going. You're not just surviving. You're becoming indestructible, not because life stopped hurting, but because you stopped letting it define you. You stopped waiting for things to be easy. You stopped waiting for permission to become great. You made peace with the pain, and you learned to use it. You learned to build with it. You learned to convert every loss into a lesson, every tear into fuel, every hardship into discipline. That is where the unbreakable you was born. People often think strength looks like perfection, like never falling, never struggling, never crying. But that's a lie. Strength looks like breaking and choosing to rise again. Strength looks like showing up with tears in your eyes and fire in your chest. Strength looks like standing tall when everything in you is tired, when your heart is heavy and your body wants to quit, but you take the next step anyway, not because it's easy, not because you feel like it, but because there's something in you that refuses to stay down. That kind of strength comes from exposure. It comes from the experience of being knocked down so many times that you learn how to fall and still move forward. You learn how to lose and still believe in your future. You learn how to be alone and still trust your vision. That level of mental toughness can't be bought. It can't be bartered. It can't be taught in a classroom. It has to be lived. It has to be earned the hard way. And once you've earned it, no one can take it from you. What once would have broken you now only builds you. What once would have made you quit now only makes you sharper. The pain didn't go away. It just stopped scaring you. The darkness didn't vanish. You just learned how to carry your light through it. You know what it means to break. You've been there. You've cried in the dark. You've questioned everything. You fought battles no one knows about. but you're still standing. And that alone proves you're not weak. It proves you're not ordinary. It proves that you're built for something more. The world will always try to label you based on your failures. It'll define you by your past, by your pain, by your scar. But what it doesn't see is the resilience forged through every crack. What it doesn't see is the power hidden beneath the rubble. Because what broke you also made you. And now what was once a reason to quit has become the reason you can't be stopped. You've been tested, you've been bent, bruised, and beaten. And yet you rise, not despite the pain, but because of it. The struggle isn't there to defeat you. It's there to define you. Most people misunderstand the purpose of struggle. They think it's punishment, a sign they're doing something wrong, a signal to stop. But the truth is, struggle is a signal to grow. It's the pressure that shapes potential. It's the resistance that sharpens focus. Struggle is the forge where grit is made, where resilience forms, where the mindset required for greatness is hammered into place, one painful hit at a time. You don't get strong without a struggle. You don't build muscle without tension. You don't gain mental toughness without adversity. Struggle is the sharpening stone that carves you into something fierce. When everything feels heavy, when you're overwhelmed, tired, defeated, when nothing seems to be going your way, that's the moment that counts. That's the moment that tests what you're really made of. Anybody can be confident when everything is flowing. Anybody can talk big when life is easy. But it's in the pressure, in the chaos, in the tension of life that real character is exposed. That's where the decision is made, to fold or to fight, to retreat or to rise, to let the storm consume you or to walk through it with fire in your chest and purpose in your stride. Most people want results, but they don't want resistance. They want elevation, but they don't want the climb. They want the reward, but not the requirement. But struggle is not optional. It's not something you can avoid and still expect to reach your full potential. If you remove the struggle, you remove the strength. If you avoid the process, you sabotage the product. You have to be willing to go through the discomfort, to embrace the pain, to lean into the pressure, not run from it. Because on the other side of that pain is purpose. On the other side of that grind is growth. You don't get the breakthrough without the breakdown. The people who succeed don't have less struggle. They just stop letting the struggle define them as weak. They use it. They learn from it. They let it stretch them, reshape them, mold them into warrior. They don't pray for easier paths. They develop tougher legs to climb. They don't wait for the struggle to end. They become stronger inside the struggle. Because when you face the struggle with open hands, with a ready heart, with relentless energy, it transforms you. It exposes everything fake, everything lazy, everything fragile. And once those parts of you fall away, what's left is real power. Struggle brings with it a choice. To become bitter or to become better. To see it as a curse or as a call. To back down or to rise up. Every challenge, every setback, every time things go wrong, it's a chance to level up. It's a chance to build something that can't be shaken. Most people are too focused on the outcome. But struggle teaches you that the real prize isn't in the destination. It's in the person you become during the climb. It's in the grit you earn when nobody is watching. It's in the fire that ignites when you feel like giving up, but keep going anyway. Struggle has a way of simplifying life. It removes distractions. It reveals what matters. It forces you to face your priorities. When you're under pressure, you stop wasting time. You stop chasing things that don't serve your vision. You learn to cut off dead weight. You start listening to your gut. You start trusting your work. You start realizing that comfort never gave you anything but stagnation. But struggle, that gave you edge. That gave you vision. That gave you hunger. Most people don't need more motivation. They need a new perspective on pain. They need to understand that the pain is not personal. It's purposeful. It's not happening to stop them. It's happening to grow them. Every time you survive a struggle, you gain proof. Proof that you can handle more. Proof that your limits were never real. Proof that you are more capable, more powerful, more equipped than you thought. Struggle doesn't shrink your potential. It expands it. It opens you up to deeper strength, clearer focus, and greater impact. Every scar tells a story of strength. Every wound that healed built a layer of armor. Every uphill battle added something permanent to your character. That's what struggle does. It transforms you in ways comfort never could. So stop running from the pain. Stop avoiding the pressure. Stop praying for an easier path and start preparing for a stronger version of you to rise. Let it hurt. Let it break you. Let it strip away everything that was never built to last. Because what remains after the storm, after the fire, after the fight is someone who cannot be moved, cannot be stopped, and will not be denied. Let it destroy you because the destruction isn't the end. It's the beginning of your rise.